Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Bernie Sanders suffers arterial blockage, hospitalized, recovering nicely. Campaign events canceled for the time being. Meanwhile, as rats scurry off the ship and try to seem human, Donald Trump reportedly wanted to shoot migrants in their legs and build an alligator-filled moat on the border.
It's because I'm tough.
Meanwhile, support for impeaching Trump hits an all-time high, but only 4 in 10 Republicans think he mentioned Joe Biden on the call, despite the fact that he is admitted to mentioning Joe Biden on the call.
That's the whole point, you idiots.
Never said anything once, or did I?
Meanwhile, the State Department IG to brief Congress on an urgent matter. Could it be the reclassification of emails as part of the massive Hillary Obama gate? Elizabeth Warren proposes a corporate lobbying tax. DHS finally begins to address white supremacy terror threat. Donald Trump seeking more cuts for SNAP benefits. Activists push 100% of the banks servicing private immigration detention center companies to drop their financing. Johnson & Johnson, was it $20.4 million in an opium deal, or $20.4 billion? I think it's a B. Meanwhile, federal judge rejects the intentional discrimination claim against Harvard University. And lastly, new studies show expansion of Medicaid, shockingly, made people healthier. All this
Correlation and causation.
All this and more.
Exactly. Correlation.
On
causation.
today's program. No, it was just a $20.4 million settlement for 2 Ohio counties. So the point is, though, is that what this does is it sets a baseline. And we will be talking about this, I hope, more when I go to Vegas in a couple of weeks for the tort conference. I have heard that apparently the judge does not want people doing any media about it. So we'll see if we will be talking about specific cases or more broadly. We shall see about that when the time comes. This statement was released today by Jeff Weaver regarding Bernie Sanders. Sanders in Vegas. Senior advisor Jeff Weaver on Wednesday issued the following statement. During the campaign event yesterday evening, Senator Sanders experienced some chest discomfort. Following medical evaluation and testing, he was found to have blockage in one artery and 2 stents were successfully inserted. Senator Sanders is conversing in a good spirits. He'll be resting up over the next few days. We're canceling his events and appearances until further notice, and we will continue to provide appropriate updates. Look, I don't know anything about medical stuff. I did take AP biology, but when it came time to do the blood test, I had to have my lab partner do it because I cannot stand the idea of blood.
Oh no, blood.
Exactly. But on Twitter, Matt Binder referenced his dad, who is a listener of this program, former producer Matt Binder, said his dad had the exact same procedure, was up and back in work within a couple of days. My understanding is that generally the recovery time for this is pretty quick, and but we'll see. Best wishes to Bernie Sanders. Get him back on the campaign trail as soon as possible because it's important. Nobody has been crisscrossing the country more than Bernie Sanders. Really, I mean, since 2015 in many respects. I mean, he was running in 2015 and 16. He obviously went all across the country campaigning for Hillary Clinton. And then starting in January, he was up at it again. You'll recall that it was Bernie Sanders going around to rallies around the country that was instrumental in protecting the Affordable Care Act. People forget that little chapter of history, but there were rallies. I mean, this feels like it was decades ago, but you'll recall there were town halls where progressives, Democrats went to these town halls and read the Riot Act to their representatives who were talking about voting to destroy the Affordable Care Act. And Bernie Sanders was going around, had organized, I think it was Our Revolution that was doing a lot of this, and campaigned there. So he's been basically crisscrossing the country now for 4 or 5 years.
And leading like the most aggressive legislative agenda in Congress, ending the genocide in Yemen, pushing for health care, getting Amazon to raise wages. I'm praying for him unapologetically.
Well, maybe you should have been a little bit
I should have pre-prayed.
Less atheistic, and maybe those prayers would work.
I'm not atheistic. I'm the God believer on this show. I'm not with
right?
all these lame atheists. No, of course not.
Oh, okay.
God is great. I'm not one of these like, and you believe in it's not rational.
All right. Well, there you go.
You're an agnostic, right?
T.
Agnostic?
I am largely agnostic when it comes to God. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably like the only defensible position, but I will take the God is a great position.
I mean, I'm sort of I guess it was a Buber. Was a Buber who was just like, what's the difference? You might as well believe in it.
Martin Buber. Yep.
Because he's just like, I can't prove it either way. So
what are you going to do? It's more pleasant to believe, and that way you can pray for Bernie Sanders.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice if there was a God.
That was his book. It was called It'd Be Nice.
It'd Be Nice.
Work of Jewish Theology by Martin Buber.
We're going to get into this stuff with the State Department. I mean, in impeachment in just a moment. The importance of impeachment is being borne out by what the Trump administration is trying to do, ostensibly to stop the impeachment from going forward. But it also indicates what they've been up to for an extended period of time. We will get to that in a moment. But first, I should tell you, there is no need to suffer through another sleepless night. Why? Calming Comfort by Sharper Image. It's the luxurious weighted blanket that helps you fall asleep, stay asleep naturally. You don't need to take your drugs. You don't need to take your CBD oil, which you can get, you can develop a, a tolerance to. I have been a notoriously bad sleeper since at a very young age. And I used to pile blankets on top of me. The best sleep I would get is when it's cool in my room and I pile blankets on top of me. But you cannot do that throughout the year. And I didn't realize it, but it was not the idea of like the warmth. It was the weight. Now I don't have to do that anymore. Calming Comfort is designed with high-density comfort fill. It mimics the soothing feeling of being hugged or swaddled, which is if you've had a child, that's the first thing you learn when you take them back from the hospital. You wrap them in like a swaddle.
I prefer being swaddled, thank you.
Yes, exactly. It provides the exact right amount of weight to help you relax your body. And now they have a ThermoComfort neck and shoulder wrap, which has clay beads that you can throw in the freezer or you can throw in the microwave. Hot or cold. And it gives some pressure on your shoulders. But for someone like myself who doesn't want too much pressure on my shoulders, so I don't like to be touched that much. This is actually, I've started to use this thing, and it's quite nice. I come home, give myself 5 or 10 minutes, relax. These days, the stress is just unbelievable, frankly, with the work. So it's nice. I'm sleeping better because of my weighted blanket, and now I'm trying to make it like a daily thing. I can't usually do that because, particularly when I'm with the kids, as soon as I walk through the door, it's like a 5-alarm fire. But the Calming Comfort weighted blanket comes with a 90-day anxiety-free best sleep of your life guarantee from Sharper Image. Right now, just for our listeners, you can go to calmingcomfortblanket.com. That's calmingcomfortblanket, 3 words, run together, .com. Use the promo code majority at checkout. Receive 15% off the displayed price. That's calmingcomfortblanket.com, promo code majority. You can't put a price on a great night's sleep, so go to calmingcomfortblanket.com. Now use promo code majority. Also, support for today's show comes from Third Love. Third Love has more than, it's a bra company, has more than 80 sizes, including their signature half cup sizes. Third Love designs bras with breast size and shape in mind for a perfect fit and a premium feel. We sent out a couple of bras to our official Majority Report bra tester. This is what she had to say. I like they don't have a zillion options, so it's easy to choose something quickly. The fit is great. I usually have to return most bras I order online, even though they're in my size. I ordered 2 and both fit. That almost never happens. Super comfortable for an everyday bra, but not as boring as most t-shirt bras. Subtle, cute details, so I don't feel basic. My understanding is this is hands down the most comfortable bra you're going to own. It has straps that don't slip, tagless labels, not to mention lightweight, super thin memory foam cups to mold to your shape. Best of all, every customer has 60 days to wear it, wash it, and put it to the test. 60 days. That's 2 months. If you don't love it, you can return it. Third Love will wash it and donate it to a woman in need. Third Love knows there's a perfect bra for everyone, so right now they're offering my listeners 15% off your first order. Go to thirdlove.com/majority now to find the perfect fitting bra. Get 15% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/majority now. And lastly, support from for this program also comes from the New Yorker. When the New Yorker first began advertising on the show, I literally dropped it into a conversation with my parents just to make them think that what I was doing was real. It's sad that someone my age has to do that, but...
I feel you on that one.
Wow, it looks as if you finally arrived a little bit.
There you go.
Well, they wouldn't advertise on just any schmuck show, and maybe they
What's
would,
true?
who knows?
New Yorker represents the best writing in America today. Just head over there right now. You can check out all sorts of amazing stories, some that are sometimes disturbing, some that are they're always incredibly informational and enlightening, but also just amazing writing and stuff that you never thought about. Piece right now, the U.S. asylum system is keeping migrants at risk. One about how Isaac Hayes changed soul music. Then you've got Emily Nussbaum writes there. She's a television critic for The New Yorker. In 2016, she, of course, won a Pulitzer Prize for criticism. John Cassidy covers politics and economics for The New Yorker. He's written articles on topics that range from the intelligence failures before the Iraq War to the economics of Keynes. Shouts and Murmurs, which I always constantly read. There's one about Instagram influencers getting real. All sorts of stories that are just fascinating. I've read The New Yorker for, I don't know, 30, 35 years. There's a story. Oh, that's a Borowitz thing. Eric Trump accuses Don Jr. of being a whistleblower in a bid to get him cut out of will. That's actually a pretty good headline. I like that. Meanwhile, you can get 12 weeks for just $6, plus the New Yorker tote bag, weekly home delivery of the print edition. Unlimited access to NewYorker.com, which has 10 to 15 exclusive site-only stories every day. So go to NewYorker.com/majority, enter the code majority, 12 weeks for $6, 50 cents a week. You're going to be able to access the apps. You get the online archive. You get the crossword puzzle and more. Again, that's NewYorker.com/majority. Enter the code majority. Save 50% on a 12-week subscription and get the exclusive tote. So check out all of those offers that we have for you there. We will put links in our podcast description and in our on the blog post. Just a reminder, this show relies on its members for its support. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. And not only do we give you extra content every day, we give you the free show ad-free. Also, check out the AM Quickie. You can go to amquickie.com to subscribe, or you can just subscribe on Stitcher. You can subscribe on iTunes, however you normally subscribe. But if you want an easy place to go, amquickie.com, you just go and there's like 3 different ways in which you can subscribe. We are going to be taking it off of the Majority Report feed as of Friday will be the last day. So head over there.
It will no longer be swaddled.
It will not be swaddled. It'll be headed out to its... It'll
be a bird being pushed out of the nest.
Exactly. All right, so let's go to this. Let's start with what we know about Mike Pompeo. The more and more we're starting to see here, it is quite clear that we are headed to a full-blown impeachment, possibly not just against the president. They are stonewalling. We now have Pompeo subpoenaed for documents, Giuliani subpoenaed for documents. The failure to provide these documents now, and this is what the difference is with impeachment as opposed to normal proceedings. They have written in the context of this subpoena that failure to produce under these circumstances will be regarded as evidence of obstruction and will constitute obstruction in the context of impeachment. They are simply declaring it. Remember, this is a political process, not a criminal or judicial one. And Congress is simply saying, if you do not provide us this material, it will be a count of obstruction. And it will be obstruction. They could launch impeachment proceedings against Pompeo. They could do it against Bill Barr. And it feels like every day there's more and more evidence to substantiate an impeachment proceedings against both of them. Here's Pompeo 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago now? Maybe wasn't this Sunday. Oh, yeah, wait, it was this Sunday, wasn't it? I'm sorry. I'm confused because today's Wednesday. Here he is on This Week with Martha Raddatz on Sunday, right? And is this with Martha Raddatz? And here he is. He's completely bewildered about this whole call thing. Did you say call? Here we go.
I want to turn to this whistleblower complaint, Mr. Secretary. The complaint involving the president and a phone call with a foreign leader to the director of National Intelligence Inspector General. That's where the complaint was lodged by the whistleblower. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that President Trump pressed the president of Ukraine 8 times to work with Rudy Giuliani to investigate Joe Biden's son. What do you know about those conversations?
So you just gave me a report about a high-seek whistleblower campaign, none of which I've seen. I can tell you about this administration's policies with Ukraine. I remember the previous administration was begged by the Ukrainian people to deliver defensive arms so that they could protect themselves from Vladimir Putin and Russia, and they gave them blankets. This administration took seriously the responsibility to the Ukrainian people. We've provided now on multiple occasions resources so that the Ukrainians can defend themselves. We've worked on that. We're working. We'll see President Zelensky this week. We want a good relationship with the Ukrainian people.
Let me read something.
We want them to have freedom and independence. But Martha,
you say you know nothing about this, but let me ask you this question. The Ukrainian presidential readout of the conversation said they discussed, quote, investigation of corruption cases which inhibited the interaction between Ukraine and the USA. The president tweeted Saturday, it was a perfectly fine and respectful conversation. Do you think it's, quote, perfectly fine to ask a foreign leader to investigate a political opponent?
I think I saw a statement from the Ukrainian foreign minister yesterday said there was no pressure applied in the course of the conversation. I do think if Vice President Biden behaved inappropriately, if he was protecting his son and intervened with the Ukrainian leadership in a way that was corrupt, I do think we need to get to the bottom of that, Martha. And I hope that we will. I hope that if Vice President Biden engaged in behavior that was inappropriate, I hope the American people will come to learn that.
We've seen no evidence of that yet, but I want to go back to the question.
Elections interfered with. America cannot have our elections interfered with. And if that's what took place there, if there was that kind of activity engaged in by Vice President Biden, we need to know.
There's no evidence of that yet, but if the conversation was perfectly fine, as President Trump said, why not release the transcript or a portion to the public?
The White House will have to explain.
I mean, I think we've this must have been a week from last Sunday. This is 2 weeks ago, and there's Mike Pompeo, seemingly no awareness of this call whatsoever. He didn't even have time to read the whistleblower complaint. He just heard a report about the whistleblower complaint. He did, though, put a clue in there because it wasn't just about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's corruption. This phone call was not just about that. We should say, and we'll discuss the lack of corruption that exists there. I mean, at least in terms of Joe Biden's perspective. But they are now pursuing another theory. That is Obamagate or Hillarygate, that the Ukrainians were the ones who actually interfered with the election, but tried to frame the Russians. This is the stuff that's going on now in the fevered swamp. This is like Gateway Pundit stuff. And there's Mike Pompeo trying to push that narrative on ABC television last week. This is what they've been up to, but we'll get back to that. In the meantime, here's Mike Pompeo yesterday in Italy conceding that, well, actually, I was on that phone call.
As for was I on the phone call, I was on the phone call. The phone call was in the context of, now I guess I've been the Secretary of State for coming on a year and a half. I know precisely what the American policy is with respect to Ukraine. It's been remarkably consistent, and we will continue to try to drive those set of outcomes. It's what our team, including Ambassador Volker, were focused on, was taking down the threat that Russia poses there in Ukraine. It was about helping the Ukrainians to get graft out and corruption outside of their government, and to help now this new government in the Ukraine build a successful, thriving economy. It's what the State Department officials that I...
So basically that was his way of, I mean, he's a smart guy, went to Harvard, knows how to filibuster, knows how to bury the lead. I was on the phone call, but that because, and then here's a bunch of filler, essentially. That's basically the story they're going with. Now, I imagine most people by now know that the Hunter Biden situation, that Joe Biden was over there telling the Ukrainians, get rid of your prosecutor, because the prosecutor was not pursuing corruption, and there was a hideous amount of corruption there. It also, I think, happens to be the case that Hunter Biden is not exactly he's sort of the George Bush of the family.
He's a fell son. Can I just add to this a little bit? I mean, so to be really specific about what you're saying, the reason it is exculpatory, I think there's a broader critique here in two ways, but the reason it's specific conspiracy theory does not stand is that this energy company is a Russian-aligned oligarch who sort of represented the Russian-aligned order. He got Hunter Biden on with the sort of clear desire to win favor with the Obama administration. And what Biden did was basically fire a prosecutor who was aligned with this guy and not
call for the firing.
Right, call for the firing. So basically the reason that this specific thread of the story is nonsense is that in that specific action, he's contradicting his son's interest. Although, frankly, I mean, it's pretty irrelevant. His son makes a payday either way.
Right.
But the conspiracy theory is exactly backwards because he's going up against what the son is hired to do. However, I mean,
it's actually sort of an interesting drama where the dad comes in and the wayward son is there, and he tries to undercut the wayward son's interests.
Or even it doesn't matter. Like, hey, son, you got your payday. We're still going to do this anyways. Right. Either way we win. And I would say,
it's not that serious.
I wouldn't take. I do think, structurally, when the U.S. talks about corruption in other countries, even when they're right, that is a harbinger of our own interests and energy companies we want to advocate for. So there's a broader critique, as well as just even Hunter getting the job to begin with. But that specific conspiracy is contradicted by all evidence of what happened.
Right. The Hunter thing is more of like a generic type of corruption that seems to exist everywhere, whether it's Chelsea Clinton getting hired by NBC or Abby Huntsman for that matter, or, Billy Carter going around and trying to sell off access to...
Man, Billy Carter was kind of cool, though.
Well,
Billy Carter, I felt bad for him, though, because he didn't have family sign-off. He was just like, I was just trying to meet with Gaddafi, man. Why do you always get all the credit?
I don't get the sense that Hunter necessarily has family sign-off, too. I think this guy...
You don't think he had family sign-off from his brother to... I'm sorry.
What's that?
You don't know that story?
Oh, about the... Yeah, no, I don't think he did.
There's been a lot of things I did without family sign-off, man. Oh. Hey, my brother died. What's up? It's Hunter.
But the Trump people... The Trump people are always going to be angrier at these coastal elites and this normal corruption and this kind of nepotism that's just accepted as the way of things than they are at Trump's open and craven corruption and crime.
Well, I mean, look,
because they're like, well, at least he's not pretending that he doesn't have mud on him.
Right. But the bottom line is that this type of corruption exists in every facet of society. I'm not making apologies for it, but I mean, you grow up and, I went to go see concerts in high school because my girlfriend's dad was on the Civic Center Commission. It's like I get good tickets.
We all know. Whoa. I think you just showed yourself here. Might need to take the rest of the week off, Sam. I got you. Whoa, deep corruption. But I mean, of course this is true, and of course the stakes of the Ukrainian energy business are deeper than you
I just
go
get
in
the
and
sense
get
that
to
it was
see.
basically Hunter gets the job, promises them
Sure.
oh yeah, I'll get Dad to.
Well, he did a lot of.
Dad shows up and does exactly the opposite.
Well, he did a lot. I mean, he also got an MBNA lobbying thing right at the same time his dad was pushing through the bankruptcy bill.
He was on the board of something else.
He was on the board of Amtrak.
Yeah, of Amtrak.
Which is amazing. He's like, I'm a trade expert, bro. Right. Dude, my brother's wife's hot.
I just think that
I want to come to an Amtrak board meeting. My brother's away.
Wayward family members everywhere, and some are incentivized to do this stuff and helped out more than others. But nevertheless, meanwhile, as Mike Pompeo heads to Rome, apparently Seb Gorka gets on the plane with him because someone has to go. Now, understand, here's the point. One of the reasons why impeachment was so necessary, and which I was saying for months, was that you can't just basically run out the clock and assume that there's just going to be this vacuum that remains there. While all this is going on, it's quite clear the Trump administration, Bill Barr, Mike Pompeo, have been actively involved in trying to not only undercut the Mueller investigation. Remember, the Mueller investigation's over. They are undercutting the entire narrative. They want to be able to come out in the spring of 2020, maybe in the summer of 2020, with a whole narrative that maybe ensnares Joe Biden because he could be the nominee, that involves the Ukraine actually doing all of the interfering in the 2020 election. I mean, excuse me, the 2016 election, that Russia was not interfering at all with our election. And remember, the Mueller report did say that the Russians interfered in the election. To what extent they impacted the outcome, nobody will ever know. But they clearly did interfere in the election. And the same reasons why I don't want us interfering in other elections, I don't want other companies and countries interfering in our election. But the narrative they were going to come out was there was actually Ukraine. It was actually driven by Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And they were involved in this interference, and they basically framed Russia. And you're starting to see vestiges of this. Apparently, when Trump said, do us a favor, that's what they were looking for. They weren't just looking for this narrative about Biden. They were looking for this broader narrative on how there was this deep state ploy coming out of Ukraine to frame Russia and influence the election and throw it presumably to Hillary Clinton. You cannot assume that they're not doing this type of stuff. There's just so much money and political gain to be made from it. They apparently had a video already cut, written, produced for months anticipating impeachment, and they raised like $3 or $4 or $5 million off it the first day after the impeachment announcement. Fine, they're going to raise money, but this is what they're up to, and perfect explanation as to why this guy, Seb Gorka, would be on the flight with Mike Pompeo, because Seb Gorka is one of those guys whose job it is to build this, basically this fictional narrative.
I worked for him. Yes, I was a politically commissioned officer.
That might be the most accurate description the guy's ever used for himself.
And here he is, I guess apparently in Rome.
So how interesting. I land in Rome after flying with Mike Pompeo on his Air Force jet, and I find out Twitter has exploded. Why is the left so worried? Well, I think I know. Because the house of cards that is Obamagate is collapsing. The crimes of the last administration are being uncovered, and people are running scared. In the meantime, I'm going to enjoy the eternal city, time for my cafe affogato and my Garibaldi cigar. Ciao. They posted with the latest up-to-date info at sebgorka.com. MAGA, my friends.
You can't pause it before he does the plug, man.
He rules.
This is a huge business for them. It's a huge business. That video got 1 million views. More. This is a huge business for them. And this is what they're up to. There's too many people incentivized to not have this happen, which is why impeachment was so important, which is also why you do not do like a 2 weeks and out impeachment. because then you're basically ceding months for them to dominate. We're going to spend all our time talking about their fictional stories. And in fact, it's been reported that the State Department's IG has requested an urgent briefing with congressional staffers that apparently is happening, I think, today. This is Steve Linick. Now, I don't know anything about this State Department Inspector General. I have heard mixed things. He has reportedly asked for the meeting after his office obtained documents from the State Department's acting legal advisor. Of course, every single person in the management of our government is acting right now. One congressional aide told CNN the request was highly unusual and cryptically worded. As you may or may not know, the House Foreign Affairs, Intelligence, and Oversight Committees have scheduled 5 depositions in relation to the impeachment inquiry. It is unclear whether the State Department is going to allow those depositions to go forward. Volker is testifying tomorrow. Volker was the unpaid envoy to Ukraine, who's been there, who was a sort of a John McCainite. It's going to be interesting what he has to say. I don't think that Pompeo wanted him to speak, but he's resigned, and so now he can do whatever he wants. In addition, the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yanagovich, was scheduled to testify tomorrow. She will now appear next Friday instead. Now, my guess, this State Department IG thing, if it's coming from an acting State Department legal advisor, I would imagine that's a political appointee. I don't know, though. Apparently, the Trump administration is investigating the email records of dozens of current and former senior State Department officials who sent messages to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's private email. So they are now investigating things that have not happened for at least 3.5 years. 4 years, right? I mean, how long is she, was she, when she was, when was she? 5 years. Right? She was, she stepped down from state in 2014, was it? 2013. So these are emails that were sent 6 years ago. What are they looking for? They're looking for people who sent classified material to Hillary Clinton's private email server. But apparently, the way that they're going to do this is they're going to, they have been told that the emails they sent years ago have been retroactively classified and now constitute potential security violations. This is of 130 officials have been contacted in recent weeks by State Department investigators. So this precedes the impeachment inquiry. In virtually all of the cases, potentially sensitive information now recategorized as classified was sent to Clinton's unsecure inbox. So this is if I was to tell you, Michael, do you remember when I switched my email address? The emails you sent to my old address that I had 6 years ago before we started our own thing, those are now classified. So you're in trouble for sending those to me.
You're in trouble.
You're in big trouble.
Retroactive classification. This should really expose how BS most of the whole classification game is in general, by the way, as a second order point.
According to the State Department official, this has nothing to do with the White House. This is about the time it took to go through millions of emails, which is about 3.5 years. The State Department has been going through millions of emails for the past 3.5 years to determine which ones should be retroactively classified.
Well, I'm sure that was a top priority right after inauguration. It's like, all right, and now I want an
Let's get
email
to work.
Team.
Yes. I mean, this is creepy stuff. I'd like to think this is just routine, but something strange is going on, said Jeffrey Feltman, former Assistant Secretary of Near East Affairs. In early 2018, Feltman received a letter informing him that a half a dozen of his messages included classified information. Then a few weeks ago, he was found culpable for more than 50 emails that contained classified information. A couple of the emails cited by State as problems were sent after my May 2012 retirement, when I was already working for the United Nations. So this is an incredible fishing expedition. It's as if the entire apparatus of the State Department has basically been tasked with writing a Gateway Pundit article. This is why impeachment is so... one of the reasons why impeachment is so important at this point. Because in addition to the civic and moral and ethical reasons to hold people to account to the extent that we're able to, in addition to the political value in making every congressperson and senator take a vote for or against impeachment of Donald Trump and nationalizing all these races, it also takes up media space and oxygen that is otherwise going to be used for these fever dreams. I mean, just because Clinton's not here anymore does not mean that they can't still create these narratives about email servers and about...
Look at the Biden thing. I mean, it's
right.
It's precise, and it's so similar because you have a lot of real material to work with, and then you can mash it up with conspiracy theories, and then you lock her up, reloaded.
Come in this fall to NBC show trials.
Come in.
Meanwhile,
I should have locked her up the first time.
Kevin McCarthy was on 60 Minutes on Sunday night. AOC had a tweet about this, which was, I thought, pretty on point. She said, do people remember how much my interview on 60 Minutes was covered with a fine-tooth comb to find out, like, wherever I slipped up? Here is the leader of the Republicans, reduced to a babbling fool. I'm not directly quoting her.
Much props if she actually tweeted that.
But it's pretty close. Yeah. We can't play the video. We're only going to play the audio here because of the sensitivities of certain networks. But here's Kevin McCarthy, apparently too busy. Like, I don't have to read the whistleblower complaint because I know what my answer is going to be regardless of what it says. But sometimes that strategy just doesn't work out for you. Here he is with Scott Pelley. Scott Pelley giving him a quote that apparently Kevin McCarthy was not aware of.
What do you make of this exchange? President Zelensky says we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes. And President Trump replies, I would like you to do us a favor, though.
Well, you just added another word.
No, it's
you said,
in
I'd
the
like
transcript.
you to do a favor, though?
Yes, it's in the White House transcript.
When I read the transcript, President Zelensky brings up a javelin as a protection for anti-tank, something that President Obama would not sell. That President Trump did to protect Ukraine.
How do you expect the president's defense to roll out going forward?
The defense of what?
Well, there's an impeachment inquiry.
Yeah. There's an impeach inquiry going forward.
Impeach.
It probably never would move forward had the speaker waited 48 hours to have the transcript. We vote on important things every day, but there are certain votes that are different than others. Sending men and women off to war is the most difficult vote any member of Congress would ever make.
I'll ask you again, how does the defense of the president, in your view, roll out from here?
Why would we move forward with impeachment? There's not something that you have to defend here.
You say the president has done nothing wrong. I take that to mean that you find it appropriate that the president asked Mr. Zelensky for an investigation of his Democratic rivals?
The question before the House of Representatives is to impeach the president based upon a phone call that the speaker never even heard.
Mr. Leader, with great respect to you, and I apologize for interrupting, but these are the White House talking points that were emailed to the Congress earlier this week.
Well, I am asking you,
was it appropriate for the president to ask for investigations of his Democratic rivals with another foreign leader?
I've never seen one talking point from a White House. I'm talking to you based upon the most important facts we have. The whistleblower wasn't on the call. The IG, Inspector General, didn't read the call. But you and I have all the information we need. The president did nothing in this phone call that's impeachable.
We have all the information we need, except for I didn't even hear the part about him saying a favor, though. Honestly, like, I had to watch that thing multiple times, and I'm not even sure right now, to be fair, how they edited that. But it feels like, honestly, it feels like one of those, like, what are those machines like this where you load up someone's phrases?
Yes.
And you just press any random button, so the question has nothing to do with the answer.
That was an email the speaker hasn't read.
It was the visual.
This was about
because you can see Kevin
people
McCarthy
in
just
Ukraine.
so like totally confused and flabbergasted by the whole thing.
Another benefit of this process is interviews like that.
Indeed, and that's not going to be good for Kevin McCarthy. All right, let's play one more clip, and then we're going to go into the fun half. Or I guess should we do the Crowder thing in? Doing the fun half, right?
You got to earn it.
Yeah, okay.
You have to earn it.
Here is tomorrow. Volker will be behind closed doors talking to the intelligence community. We will get back to. We'll see what comes out of that. Probably nothing in the short term, anyways. Here is Fox and Friends, and despite the fact that the latest polls show, for the first time, impeachment now has not only has gone up precipitously in the polls, but and has reached a new high, is now a majority of people. And it's quite clear, too, from the polling that it was the Democrats coming out for impeachment that really that made the big difference. And it's fairly obvious when you think about it, right? Like, this is something I learned in the context of directing. The reaction shot will define how the audience perceives what has just taken place. You can have someone say the exact same words, and if the reaction shot is one where someone's just completely unfazed, then this is not going to land with anybody.
That's such a postmodern way of thinking about politics.
Well, but it's true.
But it's also Field of Dreams.
It's
Build
true.
it, they will come.
But that's the case. But it's basically when the Democrats came out and said this rises to the level of impeachment. Impeachment, everybody knows impeachment's a big deal. It signals like, hey, there's a real problem here. And it's the reaction shot. And the Democrats gave a reaction that was commensurate with what's going on, and the audience responded. And that's basically what's happening. There's a large, significant portion of the population that has been paying no attention to any of this. I meet people all the time. Who tell me they have checked out. I'm not paying attention to the primary until there's 2 or 3 candidates. I'm not, I'm just waiting to vote against Trump. I just can't stand it anymore. It's not good for my mental health. All this. And this is what impeachment has done. But Ainsley Earhart, she seems confused because she's looking at the polling now. And there was a morning consult poll that came out, I think today, that shows Impeachment up now at around 46, 47%. 43% saying shouldn't, and the 11% don't know. And it's been on that trajectory for the past 2 or 3 weeks. Here's Ainsley Earhart.
As we're about to discover and go over some of the sensationalistic headlines from yesterday, there's almost no there there. There's a big headline that'll get your attention. Then you look at the story, it's easily explained.
I think it gets too much in the weeds. I think first they're going after the president with impeachment. Then they're going after Rudy Giuliani. Now it's Bill Barr. And America's saying, what? How are they all connected? Connect the dots for us. What are you talking about? It's just so much information. And I don't think that the country, if you look at the polls, the recent Quinnipiac poll says 47% of regular voters do want impeachment, 47% don't. Our country is totally divided, split right down the middle.
But they are gaining some momentum on the impeachment.
Yes,
there's been a 20-point net change in the
since
opinion
before the release of the conversation
regarding impeachment. What they're trying to do is they're trying to create the narrative, the Democrats are, that this is a lawless president. That's what they want people to think. Of course, when it goes to the Senate, I don't know that many people who think that he would actually be convicted.
I love the fact that Ainsley Earhart is basically complaining that things are getting too complicated for her.
If anything,
I'm having to read like how is possible is Rudy Giuliani and Bill Barr in any way connected to the president?
Don't worry, I'll explain it to you. I'm a country lawyer, sweetheart. Anyways, there's this Jew named George Soros.
Exactly.
And he don't want your friend to have pizza pie shops because he's a communist.
What do you think about that? Do you even care?
If anything, I like this phase of impeachment stuff better because I can follow it.
It's pretty.
Yeah, this is a lot clearer than the
like the Russia stuff. Oh my God, my eyes would glaze over anytime anyone talked about it.
This is what is really shocking to me. Well, not shocking, but this tells you all you need to know about our media environment today. This was a poll that was released yesterday. New poll shows that only 4 in 10 Republicans believe Donald Trump talked to the Ukrainian president about investigating political rival Joe Biden, even though Trump has acknowledged doing so. Now, 61% of independents know that he talked to it, 85% of Democrats. So there's a certain percentage of people who are just not paying attention. But only 40% of Republicans are even aware of and accept the reality of something that Trump himself has acknowledged.
That's actually pretty high, I would say.
It does seem a little bit high. I would say probably the rest of them don't think it's any big deal at all.
Well, they probably think he's right about to bring up Biden.
Right. Well, of course. Of course he has to.
He doesn't. It's the swamp.
Folks, before we take a break, David, our Majority Report fellow, is monitoring the chat and will be monitoring Majority Reporters at gmail.com. And he is going to be putting together basically a glossary of the inside memes and jokes on this show. So that, for instance, I don't have to get emails saying, Sam keeps confusing pedantic with pedestry and
pederasty.
Pederasty, yeah. Pedestal, oh, new meme.
Right, exactly. There you go. So we're going to have a full accounting. So if you have memes that David should compile, put them in the chat today on YouTube or email us at majorityreporters@gmail.com. And what should we put in the subject line? Something easy. What? Yeah, just put memes, MEMES, in the subject line. That way we can find them, pull them out of the majorityreporters@gmail.com mailbox.
My mom's going to be so happy.
Right, there it is. It's going to be a study guide. Basically, it's going to be like a cheat sheet.
David Dane, I don't want to be a pederast here.
Right, exactly.
Is Pelosi really thinking this through?
That's not the right usage, even of the wrong usage. In the fun half,
Yeah.
In the fun half,
Glass houses.
In the fun half, we will
found glass houses.
In the fun half, we will go over this Crowder thing. I've been promising to drop this. We have both written and audio examples of Steven Crowder apparently having a problem debating me in any forum, meeting me in any forum, because I guess I'm not a college student who was not aware that he was going to be around and run into him on a booth, because that's what apparently he can handle. We will talk about that in the fun half. In the meantime, join themajorityreport.com. You can become a member, support this show. You get extra content, and you get a commercial-free every day. Sign up for the AM Quickie. Look on any of your podcast apps, AM Quickie, or go to amquickie.com to sign up. JustCoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code Majority, get 10% off. Today is Wednesday, so yesterday was Tuesday. Michael, what were you doing on Rosh Hashanah?
Happy New Year, Sam.
Thank you.
On last night's... Exactly.
That is actually what the shofar is for, right?
Well, I mean, it announces a lot of different things, but shofar definitely brings in the new year.
It's to be
using
put
the
in
holiday.
Rahm Emanuel's face. Look up that picture. Very funny. Have you seen that picture?
I don't know if I have.
Someone blowing a shofar in Rahm Emanuel's face and him flinching. It's pretty funny. Last night on TMBS, there was a guide to all of the political factions inside Israel and Palestine. How does power work inside both the occupied territories and Gaza, but also inside Israel itself, and why basically there's no political faction in Israel besides the Joint List that will do anything about apartheid in Israel. Anna Kasparian made the case for impeachment. We talked about the need for no BS single-payer Medicare for all, and did a deep dive on Haiti and a whole bunch of other stuff. Patreon.com/TMBS, Michael Brooks Show on YouTube, and get your tickets to the Philadelphia live show, World Cafe, November 23rd. Krystal Ball, Artesia Balthrop, and Emma Vigeland. No age cap on this show, so it's not a 21 and over show, so everybody can get your tickets to World Cafe, November 23rd, week before Thanksgiving. Don't worry, no logistical problems. We're excited to see you there.
Jamie.
This week on the Antifada, we speak with Nadia Guyot, an organizer from No New Jails NYC, about Bill de Blasio's horrible plan to replace Rikers Island with these supposedly more humane boroughs-based jails, justice hubs, where you can, it's like a jail combined with a shopping center, and you can get an acai bowl served to you by someone making 10 cents an hour. Like, it's going to be great. Just kidding. It's going to be terrible. So we talked about that. Yeah, it's nuts, right? And I'm excited about this episode. It's out now. Also on Friday, I have a new Vampire Castle with Leslie Lee III from Struggle Session out for our patrons, wherein we talk about the Crow movies, the Crow, the first one, as well as the sequel, the Crow City of Angels, which is not as good as the first one, but pretty funny to talk about. Also, we have our live show coming up October 12th at Littlefield, NYC. So get your tickets. We've got the Antifada. We've got Pod Damn America. We've got Leslie Lee III, the aforementioned king of pop culture. Virgil Texas and Matt Chrisman from Chapo Trap House. Simone Norman, a very funny comedian, and a live drag performance from Comrade Barbie.
Man, it's jam-packed.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like a 20-hour show.
It's going to be 2, but I look forward to your drag performance, Sam.
I'm working on it.
People
My
are
name
asking,
is Sheila Tenenbaum. It's my alter ego. It'd be great.
People are
Sam's
asking.
drag performance.
Sheila?
It's just like some annoying secretary. Like, you don't have all your Forbes.
Some people are
That's
into
totally
that.
Sam.
If I could sing, I would probably do something like
could
that.
you
but,
get up, sir? You didn't call when your number. You didn't come when your number was called. You need to go back to the end of the line. Sam's drag performance as a
Mean
woman
clerk.
at the DMV.
Yes.
Literary Hangover. I did a solo episode on the 19th century feminist and abolitionist Lydia Maria Child. She wrote the first anti-slavery work in book form. I talk about her book that she wrote when she was in her early 20s that sort of illuminates the connection between patriarchy and white supremacy, because Mary Conant is not allowed to marry an Episcopalian by her Puritan father, so she goes and marries a Native American, and so it's very scandalous literature for the 1823. So check that out. 1824.
Quick break. Fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous? You're a little bit upset? You're riled up?
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude, you want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1/2. 5 eighths. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance. Rand Paul. I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey Sam, hey Andy, you guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agreed.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up.
Ooh.
Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey, shut up.
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
Hey, folks, I'm sleeping better thanks to Calming Comfort by Sharper Image. It's the luxurious weighted blanket. It's made with super soft velveteen material. It's got high density comfort fill that mimics the feeling of being hugged. And it relaxes, frankly, my body. Makes me sleep better. Calming Comfort weighted blanket comes with a 90-day anxiety-free guarantee from Sharper Image. Right now, our listeners can go to calmingcomfortblanket.com, use the promo code MAJORITY at checkout, receive 15% off the displayed price. Again, that's calmingcomfortblanket.com, promo code MAJORITY. Can't put a price on a great night's sleep, so go to calmingcomfortblanket.com, use the promo code MAJORITY. All right, folks, welcome to the fun half. Let's take a quick phone call before we get into the festivities. You're calling from a 281 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 281. 281? Put you back in line there. Let's try this again. You're calling from a 203 area code. Who's this?
This is Joshua. How are you?
Good. Joshua, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Waterbury, Connecticut.
What's on your mind?
And, there was just a few things, but one of the things I wanted to talk about was the whole issue of Warren and Sanders and how they're similar together in policy and how they're not, and their theory of change and power. But the thing that doesn't get mentioned is in the context of we're not taking corporate PAC money, right? A lot of the progressives are not taking that. And within that framework, corporate PAC money or bundled money from Silicon Valley or Wall Street, even if you take that, it's the same difference. And so on TYT, Senator Warren said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to raise money, legally, dark money, super PAC, and all that, which is normally wealthy interests. And therefore, what she admitted is that de facto, that money will then cancel out, for the most part, any sense that she's really going to fight for most of the programs that have to do with anything redistributive in her so-called plans.
Well, wait a second. Wait a second. Wait. You just took a big leap. Hold on for 1 second. Hold on. You just took a big leap. I mean, the fact is, you're right that she has said she's going to take dark money and super PAC money in the general election. She claimed that she was not doing it in the primary, although she did transfer some money from her Senate run to her presidential primary, and that some of that Senate money was raised through super PACs and whatnot. All that is true. Bernie Sanders is not taking any super PAC money, any dark money, and quite clearly, based upon the announcement they made yesterday, he doesn't need to. That is all true. The next leap, the de facto leap that you took, is not, in fact, de facto. It is just you're just saying that.
Well, according to she said she would take that money in the general.
Right.
So the reason why you don't take corporate PAC money or all that, and I watch a lot of these shows every day, and I'm actually writing some articles, is that it's corrupting. It's a corrupting influence. And I rarely hear anyone saying it's not corrupting. So if you're going to take money that's corrupting, and there was no pushback in the interview, which was odd. There was no push. There hasn't been a pushback yet. I would have been waiting for it.
But no, there is a. First of all, there is a pushback. I mean, the pushback is that it is a choice that she's making that I think it's perfectly legitimate for people to, to assess and make it part of their calculation as to who they're going to vote for. I think if you were to ask her, she would say, no, I'm not going to do their bidding. I'm going to take their money and I'm going to do what I think is right, period. It also may be that there are people who think what she's doing is right and they're going to pay her because maybe there are very wealthy people out there who want more antitrust because they perceive it's going to be in their best interests. But no doubt, I think my feeling is that our campaign finance system is, broadly corruptive. I don't think she's admitting that she's going to be, that she's going to be blackmailed or that she's being bribed. I think but I do think it's a perfectly legitimate thing for people to say, like, I want a candidate who's not going to take that. There are a lot of people out there who say that's unilateral disarmament if you do that in the general election. And I don't know. Maybe it depends on your ability to raise small donations.
I was coming from the point of view that when I was watching the interview, and I've watched it, it's been viraled a few times. When I was watching it, it's in the context of the framework of we don't take corporate PAC money. Just as Democrats, that's one of the policy pieces you have to buy into. And not just as Democrats, but other type of folks too that are running for election. So where I'm coming from is if that's the framework that's corrupting from, say, Cenk's point of view, and he has the wolf pack thing that he's doing and all that.
Yeah.
Then if she's saying she's going to take the money that they regard as corrupting, there was no pushback from people who have that position. That's where I was more.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're criticizing the interview.
I was coming from that. No, actually, to be honest, and I watch a lot of these shows, no one has mentioned that at all. Not even a debate or even a mention. And I watch, most of the progressive independent stuff on YouTube every day.
I mean,
so that's what I'm concerned about. It's like, what? I don't get that.
What part don't you get? I understand what you're saying.
No one's discussing that. No one's discussing that within the context of that framework. If don't take corporate PAC money, that's corrupting. That's the framework. Okay, so I get that, right? Most people believe that it's corrupting, whether you could disagree with it or not. That's the framework. So she's saying she could have her reasons, but she's saying she's going to take that type of money in the general, but not primary, okay?
Right.
So the point I'm making is that if she's going to say that, or any candidate, you think there would be some discussion of what the impact of that is from your own framework, not her.
Right. I understand.
That's
Anna. I just want to say, Anna's done.
Red flag.
Anna's done that a lot.
In my research.
Anna's done that.
In my research, 2.3. Mike, I watch your show constantly. But 2.3 million of the money she transferred came from law firms and other type of organizations connected to Wall Street. So that also is in there, and so those are all like red flags about. To me, is she going to really fight for us if she gets into the White House?
I think that's
from a working class point of view.
I think it's a legitimate question. I think it's having skepticism about this is perfectly legitimate. My guess is those law firm donations are probably coming from defense attorneys because they may see that she may be bringing them more money, but in terms of their legal services being needed, but. And that's only half facetious, but no, I think it's a legitimate point.
Yes,
and to the extent that we can know, which we can't. That's the whole point of super PACs. Look, I think this was a big issue.
Right, exactly.
I appreciate the call. This was a big issue with Russ Feingold refused to take any super PAC money. He was really the last big candidate in the Senate races, as far as I remember, who refused to take any. And people were upset about it on some level because the idea was you are, and he was trying to convince other people to do the same. Feingold was the guy who was really out in front of this. At the same time, there's arguments by people who are like, well, you're unilaterally disarming. You're trying to prove that you're not corrupted. But if it's going to make you lose in the context of a race where you need more money, then maybe it's not working. Now, that's one of the things that is, I think, for people who support Bernie, that is so unique about Bernie, and that is why people feel so strongly about his campaign, is that he is not beholden to them at all, and he has motivated millions of people to donate. And
a record-breaking number of donations.
And the vast majority of them, something like 98%, have not maxed out. So they have more money to give, presumably, as he goes down the campaign. So, that's. I don't think it's fair to say that she's necessarily corrupted, but I do think it's fair to say that, look, this is a you have to give Bernie the the win in this category, and people can determine, if you have this principle that our money is corrupted by politics, it's a factor.
There's a pretty clear choice there, if that's your view. But I just want to say really briefly about Russ Feingold. Because that whole debate about, like, this stuff on, economic left positions and populism and how come it didn't translate in Wisconsin with him. And I've dug into his record a little bit more. And I mean, I wish he was in the Senate. I'm sure he would be a good member of the Senate. But in addition to voting for John Roberts, or not Roberts, that's when he flipped. He voted for John Ashcroft and mostly held like a very institutional view on voting to confirm people, which I think was a kind of institutional worldview. He also voted for a really vicious, welfare reform package that Clinton signed. So there might have been some crumbs in his legacy that caused problems for him for progressive voters.
I mean, I don't think he was as populist as people may remember him.
Right.
But he was very much an institutionalist. I mean, like just as a principle, and he broke that principle in the end when he was just like, "This, I can't maintain."
Was
this
it
principle.
Roberts that made him break the principle, or Alito? Do you remember?
I feel like it was Alito, but I can't remember.
Because I think he voted for Roberts too, actually.
But he, he just felt like presidents should get their pick. Period. I'm not like, unless there's like criminal activity involved, presidents should get their pick. And I think over time he realized, like, okay, this is a problem. But
he said in '95, he said the current welfare system is a disaster. Faced with eliminating the choice of supporting this bill or maintaining the current system, I vote to change the system. And not only was that vote a very bad vote, and we could talk about how the consensus at the time was, but I got to say, like, Bill Bradley voted against it. Daniel Moynihan voted against it.
But that's not why he lost. I mean, because he got reelected after that.
No. I'm talking about some of the institutional memory around him maybe being less, not as firmly in that poverty-fighting progressive camp.
Right, but I'm just talking about him in terms of campaign finance. He was one of the first
to come
out
I
and
know.
say,
He co-sponsored it with McCain.
Yes, but I mean, he also went further than the campaign McCain-Feingold in terms of his own campaigns, and that's where there was, some controversy around him, like saying,
all right, big picture. Once someone gets into office, there are going to be powerful forces pulling them to the right. So many powerful forces, and just trying to suck them into the establishment Borg. And those forces are going to be acting upon Bernie too if he gets in there. But I would rather start out with the person who's fought the hardest against it, because that stands the greatest chance of succeeding.
Okay, so let's
we get into dessert now.
Yes, we're gonna start with dessert. Now, Matt got into a little exchange with a man on Twitter, or a woman. I don't know. We don't know. Twitter is semi-anonymous always, I guess. I don't know. And replying to Matt, this individual on Twitter said, Sam Seder challenged Steven Crowder fans to find the truth, but you fail to validate your claims for irrational political vengeance? I'm not sure I get what was the first part of this? What
this is just us demanding a debate.
I see.
Yeah.
If you have some sort of evidence, then put it on the table. Otherwise, what can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Fair enough. This was in November of 2018. And I waited. Part of the reason why I waited, because I had a feeling I'd get another piece. And that happened back in May. And I've waited because I was also hoping for another opportunity, but it's not coming. So what do we start with? Should we do this chronologically, or do we go reverse chronology?
Maybe reverse chronology.
Yes, I think we'll save the more media friendly for a second. So back in May, early May, I got an email. Oh no, this must have been the first one. Must have come actually, I think, in April, from a guy named Jim. And he wrote, "Hello, Sam Seder team. My name is Jim, and I work for freespeech.tv. This is a new network being launched on June 1st. We're wondering if Sam would accept our invite to be on the show. The show is a panel discussion that will have a conservative and a liberal on every show to discuss current events and politics for about an hour. The show is called Free Speech and will be hosted by Gavin McGinnis. We can pay for Sam's travel and stay, plus pay him $5,000 to be on the show."
You should have gotten a hotel in Midtown, bro.
We have a lot of big names on both sides of the aisle, I-S-L-E, that have agreed to be on. We're hoping Sam can too. T-O. We will be filming 2 episodes a month for 12 months so we can work around Sam's schedule, Jim. Now, I have to say, when I get an email like this, I am suspicious. Because, one, Gavin McInnes wants me on his TV show. Okay. He's going to pay me $5,000. I don't get $5,000 for anything. I don't know if all the appearances I've made on MSNBC over the past year, I will get $5,000 in the aggregate for. Probably not, actually. So I got very suspicious on this. Now, whenever I get suspicious, what I do is I send it off. I say, I'm not going to answer this. I'm going to have Patrick answer it. Patrick, who works, you never hear me reference him because he works in the basement here at the Jury Report. We just bring him out to just look at it. So Patrick responds and says, oh, yeah, Sam's, could be interested. Tell us more. Jim writes back, what nights, and this is May 21st, what nights in June? Oh, okay, so we talk and this and that, and at one point he says, oh, yeah, here he goes. Okay, so, hello, Patrick. Thank you for getting back to us. The show is being filmed in a professional studio downtown Manhattan. There will be makeup because Patrick was very concerned that I needed makeup.
Patrick throws a lot of shade at you.
Yeah, Patrick is... No, but Patrick was like, well, Sam wants to know if there's going to be makeup. I was just curious, like, what the heck is going on here? And so there will be makeup. About 30 guests is in the audience. The show will be shown on Free Speech TV, but we'll be putting up some interesting parts of the show on YouTube. The show is all about having conservative and liberal ideals being represented in long-form, hour-long discussion. I saw Sam's interview with Glenn Greenwald the other day. That was awesome. This is kind of the same idea. The guests maybe not agree on some of the current political topics discussed, but we do it in a fun and respectable manner where both perspectives are shared on any given topic.
Is this person ESL? Like, they keep using the wrong word for things.
Well, I don't know, but I have a feeling that Jim is not really Jim.
Maybe you guys should lay off Jim.
I think Jim used to work at Vice.
I think Jim has a drinking problem.
Now, we want the viewers from right to left to be able to do both sides, not feel like they're watching another Fox News or MSNBC echo chamber. Gavin would be the host of the show, and the 2 guests will be a liberal and conservative on each show. We're shooting 2 episodes a month for a year, so we can work around Sam's schedule. Is there a... Well, there, yeah. Boy, oh boy. Is there a particular conservative guest Sam would like to be on the panel with? We could make it work. Steven Crowder might be a good pairing, for instance, and he is willing to do the show. Ooh. I have noticed a lot of Sam's fans want Sam to debate Steven. This could be perfect forum for that. We're getting a great response, blah, 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 blah. The site goes, blah, 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 blah. We could do a conference call with Gavin if you guys wanted to. Now, here's where I think, like, oh, this is real. And I'm not going to go do a show where Gavin gets to pretend he's Dick Cavett. I'm not going to go do a show where Gavin pretends that he is like some type of just neutral host, because Gavin is clearly trying to resuscitate his career. Now, I would go on with Gavin on his show if it was live, or I could record my version of it. And I would have Gavin on my show if we were going to debate about something, and I would do it for free. The only way that I would agree to help revive Gavin's career is for a minimum of $250,000. But I would pay my way. I would get there on my own, and you wouldn't have to put me up. But that's not the point. So then Jim writes, don't go to this yet. On May 21st, what nights in June will work for Sam? We ideally are going to shoot in the city around 8 p.m. Fridays. It allows the studio, blah, blah, blah. Thank you greatly, Jim. Patrick responds, hi, Jim. Sam says, whatever night Crowder is there works for him. Patrick. And Jim responds on May 21st at 3:21 p.m. Awesome. Thank you. We'll be back soon with dates. Then on May 30th, we haven't heard anything. And I say to Patrick, what's the deal? And he writes on May 30th, hey, Jim, Sam just asked, what's up? Do we have a date yet? And then on May 30th, 11:32 a.m., thanks for following up. I'm sorry it's taken so long. I'm working hard on it, and we are in dialogue over it with Crowder. I will know more in coming days. I will get back to you for sure. Thanks again. I think it'll be awesome when it happens. I think Sam is hilarious.
Thanks, Jim. Patrick, you tell Jim that I said thank you.
But then June 3rd comes around, and Patrick, I almost said me. Hey, and Patrick writes, hey, Jim, any word? ? And Jim writes back on June 3rd. Yep. Made some progress over the weekend. Hope to have an answer for you guys at the end of the week. Thanks so much. I just want this as just as bad as you/Sam want it. And then on June 9th, Jim writes, we tried hard, man, but he just won't do it with Sam. Very disappointing. Is there anyone else that Sam might want to be on the show with? Just a couple ideas. Ann Coulter lined up on the 26th. We could offer Sam. Also, what about Jimmy Dore? We've been talking to him. Thank you, Jim.
Oh, my God. Where is the Trump cuck?
And so Patrick writes back, oof. I'll ask him about the others. What happened with Crowder? He won't do your show or won't do it with Sam? Did he give a reason why? Sam's going to be cranky with me, which is true. I was really cranky when Patrick told me this. And then Patrick, I didn't get a response. And I was like, Patrick, what's the deal? And so he writes to Jim on June 12th. Hey, Jim, so now Sam thinks I messed up somehow on the Crowder thing. And that's why it's not happening. He didn't really react when I mentioned any of the other names. I can press him again, though. I'm sorry, Patrick. I was so cranky and wanted to
Klobuchar-esque.
Well, I thought that I said to Patrick, I said, hey, man, did you screw this up? Because I wanted to debate Crowder. And he's like, no, I didn't. And I said, are you sure? And he's like, no. And so that's why he wrote Jim that way.
Then you threw a chair at him.
And then Jim wrote back, all right, man. I know you guys are going to be pissed, but here it is, what we got out of Crowder. Crowder said he has 4 million YouTube followers and Sam has 500K followers. We already up to now 650,000.
Growing fast, faster than Crowder.
Wow.
And he didn't want Sam trying to ride in on his coattails of hard work, blood, sweat, and death threats, just to lend his notoriety to Sam, which would help Sam gain some of his followers. And Crowder hates Sam for some reason, so he doesn't want to help Sam.
I believe that part.
I do too. Now, the funny part is, now, of course, like...
Wait a second. Crowder's willing to lend his brand out to unknown college kids.
Well,
Imagine
that's
what
the
they
point.
could capitalize on.
I happen to know for a fact that there's never been a single college kid that Steven Crowder has debated that has even close to 4 million YouTube followers. In fact, I will bet that I have more YouTube followers than any college student that he has ever debated. And I would also argue that he probably, anybody that he was going to go on with on Gavin's show, and I don't know, has he appeared on Gavin's show? Why don't we look that up? Don't have much more followers than I do. Maybe by, I don't know, 10%, 30, 20%, but not 400%. Anyways, Crowder was supposed to be on our show last week, so this had nothing to do with Gavin. It's just Sam unpopularity with Steven. So it appears that Crowder wouldn't even go and show up on the show. What's that? He was on what?
Whoa. This is interesting. I don't know. This causation correlation
Gavin
question on
tried
this.
so hard, multiple times. He tried so hard that now Crowder is mad at Gavin for pushing so hard for it to happen. I thought if anyone could make this happen, it was Gavin, but he could not convince him after multiple attempts to do it. We were fucking pissed. We think it's stupid for him not to do it and that it would go viral. I think with Crowder getting demonetized did not help things either. I'm not going to give up, but I figured for now it's not going anywhere. I would not be surprised in the near future if we get him to rethink it. We told him he is just as bad of the 19 out of 20 liberals that say no to Gavin when we ask them to be on. Hard to have a dialogue when no one wants to fucking talk to each other.
So hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a fucking dialogue.
With that said, we would still like to have Sam on with someone. Maybe if Steven sees that episode of Sam with some other conservative, then maybe he could open up the dialogue for a future date. We have Candace Owens on September 6th and blah, blah, blah. We could, on the conservative side, we could use some help of getting here. Liberals, if you have any idea, the show is about having both sides and et cetera, et cetera. I'm sorry it didn't happen. We're going to try and get Sam and Steven. I personally love Sam and watch his show every day. It's a very sweet thing to say, Jim. Weird that you would need to put me up when you know that the show is done every day from Brooklyn and this show tapes in New York, but maybe it's true. I'm glad he does. No hard feelings, Jim. And then I just wrote back, Patrick wrote back, because I want to see, I asked Patrick, how much money are they willing to pay before we go public with this? And then it turned out just $5,000 was about as far as they were going to go. So then we were like, okay, now it's time to go public.
It's definitely a new movie. Sam and Gavin, anonymous pen pals.
So now look.
They hated each other in public.
One time
they roasted each other
is
in
not
private.
evidence of anything, and some of you will say. That just happened once. But no, ladies and gentlemen, this was a pattern. This happened in the spring of 2019, but back in the summer, early fall of 2018, there was an event that I was thinking about attending, but it was contingent upon me being able to have a debate with someone who I thought was influencing the younger generation on YouTube. I mean, that was basically my idea. And if it's someone who I think is doing that, I don't care how many. Well, the fact that he has, with 3 or 4 million YouTube views or subscribers is indicative of how many people he's reaching and why I think that's problematic. Roger Stone, I don't know how many YouTube subscribers he has. He's a fairly big name, but I don't think many, frankly, young people follow Roger Stone or care what he says. And so he's less relevant to me. So here is a recording that was made that captures a phone call that took place between myself and a booker recorded in New York, which is a one-party state. We have altered the voices just slightly, and no names are involved here. I mean, of the other party. I don't normally do this, to be honest with you, in terms of recording calls like this, but there was radio silence. I was supposed to debate Steven Crowder, and I was very, very much looking forward to it. Do you remember, Brendan? I was supposed to debate him at an event that took place in California, and this year it's taking place at a different place in the country. I think it's Tennessee. And I was very excited about this. But then all of a sudden I didn't hear anything. And so when the person said, "Can we get on the phone?" I was like, okay, but that's weird. And I'm in a one-party state. So, because I had anticipated that something was going to go sideways. And here is that exchange.
Things are moving along. I was literally just building your proposed schedule panel.
Oh, great.
I know. It's very exciting stuff. So you'll have all of that soon. I did want to talk to you about the debate.
Okay.
So it seems that Steven Crowder has maybe gotten some cold feet.
Okay.
And feeling a little intimidated, so I don't think he's coming.
He's not even going to come?
Right.
Why is that? Pause it. Now, I want people to understand that this is just this lady's, assessment. She's not inside Steven Crowder's head. The fact that he got cold feet because he felt a little intimidated, that's just her assessment. I want to be fair here. It's just her assessment. Go ahead.
It's a great question. I would love to ask it to him myself. He's not even answering anymore.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. That's too bad.
Interesting. But I have two other options for you that I think might be interesting.
Okay.
And if they're not, we should go to the drawing board.
Okay.
We're happy to do that. So we have Candace Owens coming from Turning Point USA. Are you familiar with her? Kanye's a big fan.
Sure.
And the other one we have, which actually I think would be my preference, I think it could be very interesting, and I think it's a very interesting dynamic, is Dan Bongino.
Who is Dan Bongino?
Dan Bongino, he eluded me at the beginning because I didn't quite understand who he was. He's had insane growth on YouTube and Facebook Live and things of that nature. He was former Secret Service, and now is just a big pro-Trumper. I'd love to send you some info and background on him and kind of what our idea is behind it.
Okay.
But if neither option is favorable, I can absolutely go back to the drawing board. I have not a single problem doing that. I want to make sure this is a great experience, number one, for you, and something that's interesting and toothsome for you to get into also.
Yeah. I'm familiar with Candace Owens, and that might work. But send me information about that other guy. I just have never heard of him. And yeah, that's a real shame.
I think
Crowder.
You're bigger. Yeah, I don't know what his team is doing around him, and that's just for me to speculate at this point.
Pause it. Want to make sure that we understand this is speculation. I imagine it's informed speculation. Also, let me just say, I didn't mean any offense to Dan Bongino. I just had never heard of who he was. I didn't know who he was. And but let's hear the speculation. It's speculation, folks. Just go back just a little bit, because as you can see, I was really interested in getting more information about Steven Crowder. Work, but send me information about that other guy. I just have never heard of him. And yeah, that's a real shame.
I think
Crowder.
You're bigger. Yeah, I don't know what his team is doing around him, and that's just for me to speculate at this point. I don't know.
He has a team. He has a whole team, and he won't do it. He can bring the team.
I believe it's his father, but I can't confirm or deny that.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure. That was just my inference.
Pause it. I want to make it clear. She says here, this is just her inference, so she doesn't know. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. I mean, it would be a weird thing to just sort of randomly say, I think it's his parent. His mom didn't want him to, or his dad didn't want him to.
Just out of nowhere to come up with that?
Out of nowhere to come up with that. But that's the inference. And we pull it back just 10, 15 seconds. Then, I mean, you have to put yourself in my mind, like, this is the first I ever heard of that. And I'm like, wait a second. Crowder's not a teenager, right? Like, does his folks know he's doing this? That's a real shame.
I think
Crowder.
You're bigger. Yeah, I don't know what his team is doing around him, and that's just for me to speculate at this point. I don't know.
He has a team. He has a whole team, and he won't do it. He can bring the team.
I believe it's his father, but I can't confirm or deny that.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure. That was just my inference.
I understand. Well, I mean, he's young, isn't he? He's not that young, is he?
He's a young guy. He's in his 20s.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, send me that. What about Dave Rubin? Is he? Yeah.
Oh my God.
I went on to Dave Rubin to see if I can get Rubin.
Steven Crowder is literally 3 8-year-old boys in a trench coat. This phone call proves it.
Well, that's why you got to have Dad now. Now look, I understand. Steven doesn't have the confidence necessarily to back up his, change my mind. But let me put it this way: Steven Crowder is not capable of defending his positions with an adult who has spent a little time reading up about these things and is somewhat knowledgeable about this stuff. Oh, he's 32 years old. Wow. All right. Well, to be fair,
maybe 31.
At the time when this conversation happened, he was probably 31. And I know that, my daddy made sure that I wasn't going to get into a situation where I would feel embarrassed well into my late 30s. So, but at one point,
will he be with Sarah Jessica Parker in this scene?
Exactly. At one point, Steven Crowder has got to man up and actually have a debate with people who are aware that they're going to have a debate, that aren't going to, in between psych classes or, run into a booth and then go sit down with him. That's, I'd be like me going to, I don't know, an elementary school and saying, like, who's going to play one-on-one basketball with me right now? So, just did this because I know a lot of Crowder fans out there no, wait a second. I don't want to laugh about this because this is not easy for folks. There's a lot of people out there who think that Steven Crowder is some kind of champion of theirs. And the fact is that if he actually felt confident about what he espouses, he would be open to having a real exchange with people who know what they're talking about. Which is not to say that college students don't, but like I say, I've seen some kids who do quite well with Crowder. But I mean, to be walking down the quad and just seeing a booth, you're not prepared for it. You don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know what the topic is.
And sometimes they do pretty well anyway.
That's true. It's true. And look, Crowder is largely, most of the things I've seen, trying to argue really, in many respects, the indefensible. And he does well with some of these students, not so well with others. And we're only looking at the video that he wants to release, too. So,
well, if he wants someone more age appropriate to debate him, the rest of the MR crew is available.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to have to check with my mom.
But, Steven, you can come on this program. You can record it. We'll do it live. I am willing to go on your program, do it live. We can do it in another venue if you want. But you can hide behind the fact that you have more YouTube subscribers than I do. But it really sort of breaks down when you're willing to debate college students who don't even have YouTube channels. If you want, when we have this debate, I will not monetize it. I will not put ads on that day. I will demonetize it on YouTube. You don't want me to gain any of that? If you're worried about losing your followers or your supporters, that is fair. Because if I was you, I would be worried about that. In fact, that's the whole point of this. The whole point of this is to say to people who think that Steven Crowder knows what he's talking about, begin to understand that if he really knew what he was talking about, he wouldn't be afraid to defend it. So that's why we're doing this. And if you are a fan of Steven Crowder's, you should reach out to him and say, hey, man, there's 2 examples of you ducking Sam Seder in an embarrassing way. And look, how many times do 2 examples you get documentary and audio evidence of something like that? Right? Never. This is somebody who's super, super nervous about it.
Fragile.
So, super fragile.
Yeah, hopefully the algorithm will get it in front of some of those people's eyeballs.
Yeah, we'll see. But folks, feel free to go into any of Steven Crowder's chat rooms. Put up a link.
Hashtag Cold Feet Crowder.
Cold Feet.
A lot of people are saying he's Cold Feet Crowder.
I thought it was disgraceful. And the fact that his friend Gavin worked so hard for him pretending to be Jim and he left him out in the cold like that. I mean, I just thought it was very cowardly and very sad. Maybe you should ask his father.
You know,
maybe his father should debate this.
There is a theory about people who lift that many weights. That in some ways that they are trying to like literally, you know, wrap them, like protect themselves from something that they're really worried about inside. And I suspect that maybe there's something inside of Steven that he is having a tough time with. And it can come out in a lot of different weird ways.
Lots of things.
So
many
Maybe
things.
try lifting some books next time.
Well, I think until Steven can look at himself in the mirror and feel proud about all the things about him, not have to worry about maybe Dad not accepting things about Steven, like his limitations or his perspective on things. I don't know. I'm sure there's a sadness there. Speaking of sadness, let's talk about Jim Jordan, the guy who refused to act upon reports that one of his fellow coaches, was it a coach or somebody who worked, the team doctor, was attempting to molest, maybe successfully molested, some of the students and athletes on, sexually assaulted. Oh, it was over 1,500 by this team doctor. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
It was a systemic.
Oh, this just came out.
Oh, a new thing came out?
Yeah, this came out in just the past 20 hours. The university, wow, they did a report. There was 1,500 of these sexual assaults by this doctor. And apparently, some of the students told Jim Jeffords. Not Jim Jeffords. Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan.
Jim Jordan.
And he apparently didn't do anything about it. He was pretty upset that
He's
people
put in his 10,000 hours
Yeah.
for covering for the president's crimes.
Yeah. Anyways, that almost has nothing to do with this clip because Jim Jordan is on on Jake Tapper's show, and he is trying to promote what they're calling, they haven't settled on a name yet. They're calling it Obama Gate. They're calling it Secretary of State Gate. They're calling it Gate, Biden Gate, Hunter Biden Gate, Hunter Gate. They haven't figured out what they're going to call it yet because they're still in the writer's room trying to come up with a good hook.
Might have gone to the Gatewell one too many times.
It's true. Gatewell, maybe?
Why not just call it Obama Gate because he was black?
But here is Jim Jordan on Jake Tapper's show trying to push some type of narrative, and Tapper is pushing back because there's no evidence beyond what we know that Hunter Biden was hired by this gas company in Ukraine because they hoped that he would influence his dad, and it didn't work at all, at least in this narrow circumstance. And Tapper pushes back.
of things. You really think the American people are like, wait a minute, so Rudy Giuliani, the president's private lawyer, had a conversation
I
with
think that you came here and leveled a bunch of accusations and allegations about
I didn't level
about Hunter
facts.
Biden.
I didn't level. I just said the facts. Did he get paid $50,000 a month?
He was paid by a foreign company. Yeah, he was paid by Burisma. But Joe Biden was trying to get a prosecutor who was not pursuing corruption fired, and it was supported.
It's amazing the gymnastics you guys will go through to defend what you really think
it's
the vice
gymnastics,
president,
it's facts.
the vice president,
and I would think somebody who's been accused of things in the last year or two would be more sensitive about throwing out wild allegations against people.
I'm not throwing out wild. I'm throwing out the facts.
The prosecutor was not pursuing corruption. That's why the entire West wanted him fired, including anti-corruption activists in Ukraine. I don't understand what you don't get about that.
I like it. Jake Tapper there walks off and feels like he's now earned like 3 disparaging remarks of Ilhan Omar. And
all right, next block is the fact that Rashida Tlaib exists, undermining the case against Trump.
But it's, I think, one of the reasons why you want impeachment is because it emboldens and puts the Bush administration on the defensive, so that when they come out with stuff like that, the Jake Tappers of the world have more room to push back on their fictions that they're going to promote. We're just heading into this election year. I mean, this is what the game plan is, and it's helpful to see. Very helpful to see.
I mean, it would be even more helpful if the news would discuss substantive issues that affect people's lives on multiple levels, but that was never going to happen in the first place. So,
Jamie,
it's not like that's being preempted.
Yeah, the report on the implications of expanding Medicaid in Michigan as opposed to Virginia.
Now they're not going to do that.
Yeah, now they're not going to do that one because they had to spend their time with that. I think it's, we know what happens on cable television largely. Here is Anand Giridharadas on The Daily Show. Really sort of, laying it out quite well in terms of the choices that we have in the Democratic field. Pete Buttigieg the other day said that he and Elizabeth Warren share a lot of the same goals, but he doesn't want to fight so much. He doesn't want to fight. She wants to fight, and I want to.
He's interested in outcomes, I think he said.
That's it. I'm interested in outcomes, not fighting. And the idea that you can get change, you can get these outcomes as if it was just like, we're just going to go and we're going to have tea. And we're going to say, look, this is the type of thing we want. I know you don't want it, but come on, guys. Let's just do this. No. And here's Giridharadas making that point.
A lot of the people who sound similar when they're talking about fixing this problem are actually quite different. And I think of the book as a set of infrared lenses to actually understand who's peddling real change and who's peddling fake change. Because you look at people who say, gosh, we got to rebuild the middle class, but who also say, as Joe Biden did, nothing's going to fundamentally change for the billionaires in this country. I just have to say, that is an incoherent, and I don't just mean rambling incoherent, as is the Biden way, but is an incoherent, intellectually incoherent theory. Because in this moment, I'm not saying all moments, but in this moment, the people up above are up above because they are stepping on people down below. And the people down below are down below because they are being stepped on. And you cannot say that I want to help the people down below in a way that will change nothing for the people standing on their necks. The same way you couldn't address feudal England, you couldn't address the Downton Abbey world without dealing with why the Granthams are the only people who own that damn castle, so big, right? You couldn't deal with slavery without making things worse for the white plantation owners. You can't, frankly, look at the Me Too world. You can't make things better for women in this world without, frankly, reducing the power of men to have impunity in so many of the spaces you and I and everybody else operate in. Right. Real change involves the loss of power. And at the heart of this book is the idea that there has been an ideology for the last 40 years that is the ideology of win-win. We can empower the least among us. We can help people in Africa. We can help people in Appalachia. And no one has to suffer. The rich people don't have to pay any more taxes. They don't have to be regulated anymore. And it is a lie. It is a lie. The only change worth doing in a moment like this with such inequity is change that will necessarily make the plutocrats less powerful. The answer to a winners-take-all world is almost logically a world in which the winners take less. And as you said, they're not going to sign up for that. It's us acting together, joining things, getting involved in democracy that are going to take change back from the charade.
Zero sum, I think, is what he's arguing.
Clearly, he's been watching this show.
You can go back and listen to the interview we did with, I guess that was over a year ago. It was, that's right. It was right before an event referenced before in California.
Hi, Ando. Your pronunciation of your name is a zero-sum game.
But the point that he's making there, I think, is an important one. That really is, to a large extent, the way that you separate the platitudes from their actual agenda, is the recognition that there are enemies, as it were, to this change, and you need to name them. You need to be able to identify them, because they're there and it's quite obvious who they are. It's quite obvious. If you're going to make society more equitable, if you're going to help people, you're going to have to prevent a small group of people from cornering the market on all the benefits of society, or an astonishingly disproportionate amount of the benefits of society. You can't have 4 people with the same amount of money as 50% of your population. You cannot do it. You can't have 4 people who control more resources than 150 million in your country and think that that is sustainable. Never mind just. But then the only way for that to change is you take that money from them.
We're going to take it back from them. Because remember, our work made that money. Labor creates wealth and value, and that's the only reason the billionaires exist in the first place.
But, you know, the other thing is, like, I don't even need to justify that to take it back. I mean, I think that's true. But I think it's also like, look, you want to live in our society? Everybody has to contribute to making it function. And it's dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional. You got lucky. Maybe you got lucky because you got smarts, or you got lucky because of the way you were positioned, or whatever it is. And you ended up with more than, way more than anyone needs. But also more than is healthy for society for you to have, period. That's it. Like, we're doing it in the best interest of society. Don't even need to have any justification beyond that. There's no natural right to money. Governments produce money. You can go own as many Bitcoins as you want. How's that sound? Or, whatever. Billionaire coins that you've created yourself. But if you're talking about a currency that's convertible into the US dollar that can then be used to pay taxes, of course, didn't grow on a tree. It wasn't natural. It wasn't, it didn't show up next to Adam and Eve. It exists because society has organized themselves. So you're subject to, society. That's why confiscatory taxation.
There are multiple reasons why we need to do that.
Policy-wise, yeah. But I'm saying, like, you don't need, as far as, like, justification, that's all the justification I think we need.
I feel like it adds a lot of heft, though, too, to remember that our work, your work made that money. as the guys from Street Fight said, that's your money, and we're going to get it back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I think that's true as well. Let's go to the phones. Calling from a well, shoot. That was too quick. 512 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Omar from Austin.
Omar from Austin. What's on your mind?
First of all, I messaged Michael about this a while back. I sincerely want to thank the show. I've been listening to you since Air America days, and it's made me politically at least I've been able to fool my friends into thinking I'm politically smart. I've got several friends on a group, and most of them are now Bernie supporters. I don't know whether it was because of my arguments, but I feel it was a significant factor. And I know at least one of them said that he's simply just going to vote for whoever I tell him to vote. So I can guarantee at least 2 votes from Austin for Bernie.
Great.
So, and that's pretty much due to your show. I think pretty much.
Thank you.
Also want to mention that if it wasn't for your show, I'd be a Warren supporter. Primarily because, like, I know you say many times that people don't care about the debt, because my mentality was that the debt was important. And because of your show, I've realized that that's not a factor. So I would have been a Warren supporter if not for your show. Now I'm a strong Bernie supporter. So I appreciate it.
Great.
Hell yeah.
The other thing I wanted to one of the things I appreciate about your show is that one of the few times the subject of UFOs has come in. You're one of the few shows that doesn't dismiss it or poo-poo the idea. You're like I remember one lady was talking about conspiracy theories, and she mentioned that she thought UFOs were real, and I didn't see the slightest hint of eye rolling from you, which I think many other shows would have done that. And so one of the reasons I'm calling is that I'm hoping I might get one of the breaking news music from y'all, because I think I've discovered some information from publicly available sources that each one by itself would be just like a interesting curiosity, but I think together either proves or has a pretty interesting prosaic and reasonable the most prosaic and reasonable explanation is still something that I think is pretty fantastic. So I was hoping to share that a little bit.
Okay, I mean, make sure it's not like book length. Let's keep it like breaking news report.
I'll try. How about this? I'll try and make it as quickly as possible. As soon as it gets too lengthy, you can just tell me, okay, it's too long, and I'll maybe send an email about it.
Okay.
So basically, there's a facility called NOCAD, NAWCAD. I can't remember right now what it stands for. It's a 11,000 strong engineering facility that provides technology support to the Marines and the Navy. Within the last few years, a scientist that works at the facility named PAIS, I don't know how to pronounce that, his last name is PAIS, has filed patents for several very sci-fi sounding weird patents, to the point where some journalists at this publication called War Zone got interested and started looking into it. One of the patents was initially rejected, but then eventually accepted once the patent attorney for the facility and the CTO for the facility wrote a letter that's saying that no, this is actually based on real physics. And interestingly enough, one of the reasons was that he claimed that the Chinese are interested in the same thing. And it's a funny letter, because in the first paragraph of the letter, it seemed like he was almost mocking the patent officer's guy's science knowledge, because the guy said that it's not based on any real physics and the energies involved would be too ridiculous. But
hey, Omar.
Basically, the patent.
I think this is something that maybe you should send an email first, because it's sort of hard to follow what you're talking about. But if you're saying like there was some. That is it NORAD or NORCAD? NAWCAD,
and you can also Google patent. The patent was craft using inertia reduction technology, and it's my contention with some other information that even though they're just patenting it now, it's been operational for at least 30 years, with producing a basically unconventional flying object, an object that has a performance characteristics that cannot be explained by publicly taught, agreed upon physics. So, and I think it's somewhere in the U.S. military, but I don't know where. But anyway, so I'll send an email about that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, send an email about it. We'll check it out.
UFOs are real.
But I want to sincerely thank the show. I think there are a lot more Bernie supporters simply because of your show, at least in Austin.
Oh,
awesome.
All right, well, great. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye.
The inertia engine is the thing that keeps coming up when people say, oh, these UFO reports are actually technology that we've created or somebody's created.
Oh, that we've created and we're just not
kind of we've done this with the stealth bomber, and I think the Phoenix Lights were drones, but I'm like looking retroactively, it seems like that's what the behavior they were exhibiting. But I don't know.
Was he necessarily saying that it was alien technology?
No, he was just saying it was UFOs.
Right. Well, I mean, of course. I think more often. I have a feeling that there's probably been, there are Navy, Air Force pilots who, have had reports of things, but it could quite be that it's U.S. technology or someone else's technology that we wouldn't let people know about. I mean, I don't know. Why would we keep it under wraps for that long, though? Like the stealth bomber was, but now it's not. Who knows?
Maybe it's the space comrades coming to bring us full communism. We don't know.
Well, they're being
That's totally
awful.
a possibility in a certain sense.
I'm sure the Naval Air Warfare Center would love the communist aliens coming to overturn
That's why they're keeping it a
capitalism.
secret.
It's like, where the fuck did you come from?
If people knew,
That'd be awesome.
things would be way out of hand.
That would be a
Hey,
very
folks.
cool alien invasion movie. A bunch of annoying alien socialists lecturing. These guys like, what? I got to go to a goddamn TSA meeting.
We have been on the Chris Coons beat for increasingly over the past, for me, Chris Coons is sort of like an innocuous senator, right? But the more the Democrats in the Senate and the more the Democratic Party begins to get more ambitious in terms of progressive goals, more ambitious about acknowledging the structural problems that we have. Things like, hey, a lot of places are gerrymandered to the point where Democrats have to outpace Republicans, by 20% to actually win by 5%. The Senate is a body that is controlled by 40% of the country. The more Democrats get involved and aware of this stuff and Democratic lawmakers are willing to make some changes, the more Chris Coons has to feel like he has to speak up. So in some ways, this is encouraging. Coons came out and said, if we take back the Senate, we should reinstate the filibuster so that we give them the opportunity to stop us from actually putting judges on the bench. Then he was out there trying to gin up a war with Iran until somebody pulled him back a little bit the other day. This is from a discussion that took place a while ago, I think, right? Oh, this was over this weekend? Oh, I thought this was, this is at the Notre Dame Law School. And they were doing a panel on partisan politics in the era of Trump. Now, the title itself I find annoying because the implication is that somehow this era has become hyperpolarized. The fact is that it was pretty hyperpolarized before. It's just a lot of people didn't really realize it.
Can we get back to the Gingrich era?
No, well, I mean,
I'm saying that's the subtext of yes, that beautiful bipartisanship.
Right, exactly.
Gingrich years.
When just the Republicans were at one polar end. And the Democrats were just basically hanging around the middle, trying to placate them. Chris Coons has an interesting take on it as to what has enhanced this partisanship. Is it because after 30 or 40 years of assaults on workers, on attempts by Republicans to destroy the protections that we had that started with the EPA under a Republican president, broadly the assault on our government, is that why because Democrats have come to realize this, because there's a new generation that says, hey, we keep seeing the Democrats just basically roll over and work in cahoots with these interests and frankly use the Republicans as cover for them to do corporate friendly things and make it like they had no choice. Like Chris Coons. Is that why there's the Democrats have become more polarized and more adamant about their positions to the extent that they have? Well, maybe. But Chris Coons has another theory. We've let in too much riffraff.
I guess I'd also ask what you think about the fact that, you know, in the good old days, we also had a Congress that was a lot more homogenous, didn't have very many women, very few people of color. There were large swaths of the American population that were pretty systematically excluded from political power and influence. So maybe it was easier to get together when only some voices were being heard in the political system. And now that we hopefully are allowing more and different voices be heard, that itself takes some work to resolve and to find compromise. So, thank you.
Anyone want to take a lead in responding?
Chris Coons has been thinking about this.
I'll briefly say you're absolutely right that the thing that has contributed most, I think, in the Senate to the grinding down of our ability to function and compromise is that control of the Senate has gone back and forth with some regularity, and it's within just a few seats. And so, now, I will also say we have both leaders of our caucuses and members of our caucuses who are all too willing to go and campaign against the folks who are the ones most willing to compromise, because those are the ones easiest to defeat. You know, I currently have legislation that I'm trying to advance with literally all 5 of the most vulnerable Republicans. So Senator Tillis and I, right, Senator Collins and I, right, so. Senator Gardner and I were just working on these bills this week. If you stop legislating with the very people who are at risk of losing their seat because they're bipartisan, then how do you expect the thing to get any better? When I challenge
Pause it for 1 second. Now, just a little bit of history. The fact of the matter is that Republicans have punished people for being bipartisan far more than Democrats have over the past 20 or 30 years. In fact, I lamented the fact that Democrats, I'm talking about Democratic voters, place compromise as such a high value over even like their desired outcomes. Compromise. That's changed because there's only so many times you can try and kick the football when Lucy pulls it away. And I think Coons has, at least as analysis goes, I think he's got a point here. His Republican colleagues attack those Republican colleagues who are willing to work across the aisle. Now, I would also argue that these Republicans that he's working with are also, more or less just as bad as those other Republicans, but continue.
How do you expect the thing to get any better? When I challenge my more progressive colleagues about how will your dreamed for vision of like complete justice be accomplished, their answers are structural change. Get rid of the filibuster, pack the court. These are fairly extreme answers. And I'll tell you, I think you're right about that. I want to believe of our country and ourselves that a more diverse Senate that includes women's voices and voices of people of color and voices of people who were not professionals, but who grew up working class and are first in their family to go to school and so forth, that we can engage those voices, that they can be part of the debate, and that doesn't produce irreconcilable discord. I think history may judge otherwise, but I appreciate you raising.
Let's be clear on what he's saying here, okay? He is saying that the more you open up democracy, the more problematic it is. Period. He is putting getting things done between him and his colleagues as a value above the idea of democracy. That's basically what it comes down to. And there is truth. The more interest you put into a room, the harder it's going to be to get to a solution. But as a value, those solutions You have to look at those solutions as to whether they're actually good solutions because they don't represent the interests of the vast majority of Americans. I mean, so like, this is the thing, is that he's looking at process only because that process delivered the results he wanted. Not because there was something inherently good about that process. He's not concerned with the process being legitimate. He's concerned with the outcomes that he's most favorable to. I have a feeling that Chris Coons would have a real problem if only black males could sit in the Senate. They might be able to get more done than to have, but only black auto workers, black male auto workers will be in the Senate.
I would actually be very excited for that legislative package.
I wonder if Chris Coons would then be okay. Like, well, we're keeping the filibuster. We're not going to court pack.
I would love to see
We're
that.
just going to have black male auto workers in the Senate, and you can't believe how much we get done.
There's another form that's like, well, we tried to have Chris in the Senate, but I'm not sure that's going to work at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit rough because he's going to come in. See, this
I'd like
is
a few bald white guys in there, but
this is the essence, though. This is the essence of what people call privilege. Like the idea that it is abnormal to have other people in the Senate, that the value of having them there is normatively off kilter. It's different, and that's causing problems. As opposed to, we have a problem that if we're going to have real democracy, we need to figure out a way of doing this. Like, it's just like where you place the emphasis on the value. And for him, it's very easy to say, like, it is a little problematic with the women coming in and the minorities.
And the poors.
And
which,
the poors.
by the way, doesn't really happen. The
right,
third
let's
thing
be
that he
honest.
said.
that still is not
Everybody
happening
in
at
the
all.
Senate is a millionaire. I think except for, I think everybody in the Senate is a millionaire. Maybe there's one or two that are not. And for Chris Coons, this is the problem. They're bringing in the problem. Like, you couldn't have a better example of the white male grievance than this. It's just that it's dressed up in a suit and it's talking about like this is not about me and my personal enrichment. It's about what's done to the process by having all these other voices in there.
That's what political scientists say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where he was going with it until he said history might not look kindly upon it. And I was like, do you think history would look more kindly upon a society where most of the population is a systematically oppressed underclass?
He does. Yes, because he doesn't recognize that fact. He just thinks that if it was just me and guys like me in here, we'd get business done. And that business, from his assessment, the business is fine. It's absolutely fine. How bad do you have to be with your perspective on this to have Joe Donnelly, the former senator from Indiana, come in and go like, ooh, wait a second, I want to distance myself from that comment?
You're right about that. I want to believe of our country and ourselves that a more diverse Senate that includes women's voices and voices of people of color and voices of people who were not professionals, but who grew up working class and are first in their family to go to school and so forth, that we can engage those voices, that they can be part of the debate, and that doesn't produce irreconcilable discord. I think history may judge otherwise, but I appreciate you raising both points.
I think the fact that we're more diverse is one of the strongest things that we could possibly have done. It is so much more reflective of America.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, Donnelly goes on to say exactly what a non-oligarch would say. I mean, the Coons doesn't even realize. I mean, he's saying this in public. Like, he is so detached that he doesn't even realize the implications of what he's saying. So detached, he doesn't even understand the implications of what he's saying. It's stunning. It's stunning. And it explains like everything you need to know about the attitude of these people. like I say, just imagine the Senate, if Chris Coons would be like, Senator Coons, for the sake of getting things done, we're just going to have black male auto workers. You okay with that? Whoa, wait a second. No, we're going to be incredibly productive.
Yeah, it would definitely be a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
We'd nationalize GM effective immediately.
Responding to Splinter, Splinter, I guess, found this video, right? And they put it up. Following the publication of this story, Coons Communications Director Sean Coit insisted Coons' intent was clear. Senator Coons is committed to improving diversity in our politics, in Congress, and throughout our country. Coit told Splinter in a statement, "It's clear that in this conversation, the senator was talking about how difficult but critically important it has been to increase diversity in Congress and also how far we have to go." Now, he did say the part about how difficult it's been. I don't remember him saying it was critically important. And I don't remember him saying how far we still have to go. I think he's even said that history is going to judge that it was actually, we've created irreconcilable differences. Now, maybe he's pro irreconcilable differences, but I don't think so. And like I say, Chris Coons had no idea what he was saying. He's so oblivious. And frankly, I think I don't know what the percentage is, but that perspective, I think, is so widely shared by, it's easiest to do it as white men.
It's the elite dark web.
Yeah.
Well, it's easiest to do it as one homogenous group, and it just so happens that the homogenous group that's already there is white men.
That's right.
It's not their fault.
That's right. Well, on some level, they are caught in a hermetically sealed bubble that they just haven't gotten used to the fact that it's about to be pierced. And by about, I mean, over the next 50 years. But I honestly, like that Chris Coons thing, I feel like is one of those things that if we had a, sort of like a cache, like with a hidden door you press and you go in to get all the weapons, like that would be, I would take that video and put it in amber and bring that out all the time to show people exactly like, this is the attitude I mean to describe. This attitude right here, where Chris Coons had no idea that he was basically saying like, it's a liability to have all these different voices, and we are deviating from the norm, and that's problematic.
Time to take the power back.
Yeah, like, Giordatis basically said it. Like, someone's got to lose, and Chris Coons is going to lose. I mean, maybe not Chris Coons, but the Chris Coonsites. I don't know. He is going to be such a pain in the ass if the Democrats take back the Senate.
Just become a Republican.
Well, there'll be 3 votes. He's with us on everything except for the war. On and on and on. That's what the
Bernie
show
finally won't work.
Oh, his dad went to Harvard.
Instead of the previous reasoning of like, well, he's with us on procedural stuff, Bernie would be like, shut the fuck up.
But guess what? I still want that guy to have health care.
Calling from a 509 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. Who's this?
Oh, is this me?
Yes.
Oh, this is Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. Long time no hear from.
I know, I've been busy.
Excuse me.
Real quick. It kind of flew under the radar, but when Trump met with Zelensky, he said Ukraine is beautiful, and then the next thing he said was that one of the winners of his beauty pageant was from Ukraine. It is very sort of on brand, and it was a great little thing. But I wanted to say, Sam, you had a guest on the other day to talk about conservative talk radio.
Yep.
Who's that guy? Yeah, you remember that?
Yes, I do. That was it Rosenthal? Rosenwald, yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed that because I listened to the local talk radio in the morning on the way to work. And but what I liked about it is that you're not afraid to offer different perspectives on things. Like, I've been listening to this show for a long time, and I've heard the Air America story a lot.
Right.
And it's usually about how it was a failure of management, right?
Right.
And when you brought it up to your guest, he said, well, yeah, but also total lack of on-air talent.
He did not say that.
And then you kind of tried to bring it back to management. And he's like, yeah, but I really want to focus in on the fact that, like, everyone on air was really terrible.
He
And
did not say that. He said there was a lot of people there who were not experienced in radio.
He said there was one person who was any good. I saw your eyes kind of you kind of perked up a little bit. And then he said, Randy whoever.
Randy Rhodes. Randy Rhodes had been doing talk radio. Yes, she was the only one who had experience in talk radio. That's correct.
And then you were like, yeah, but then also, the problem was this. And he's like, I don't think you're understanding me how bad the on-air talent was.
I think that you were adding, like you were.
He was like, as an example. Well, I thought it was particularly awkward when he was like, as an example, they think that says some guy did a brief turn in Sex and the City, he can talk about politics on a daily show every day. It's ridiculous.
Well, tell it to
and this guy
Cynthia
thinks.
Nixon.
Sorry.
Tell it to Cynthia Nixon. But
anyways, it was great that you're willing to offer perspectives that add layers to these things and nuance that we otherwise wouldn't have gotten.
Right.
So that's all I have to say.
Oh, well, I appreciate your calling in and reinterpreting what the guest said. That is very helpful.
I think people should listen. I think people should go back. People should go back and listen to it.
All right.
I thought that part where he said,
Ronald Reagan,
this guy did a little bit of law
pleasure.
school and he thinks he's a Social Security expert.
Always
what the
a pleasure.
hell?
All right, folks, we've got 1 million people have been hanging on for well over an hour. Just going to pick one randomly. Calling from a 419 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? I'm sorry, you're the final caller of the day.
Hi, Sam.
Yes.
Hello?
419. Yes, you're on. Go.
Hi, this is Drew Dowlinger. I'm in Toledo, Ohio.
Drew from Toledo. What's on your mind?
Sorry if there's a lot of noise. I'm currently in my car driving. So I was actually calling because a couple of weeks back there was actually like I guess you could say an incident of voter suppression here in town. There was a city council primary on the 10th of September, and one of the polling locations is at like a satellite area, a satellite location of the University of Toledo, Scott Park campus, and there was an active shooter drill there happening at the same time. A friend of mine on Facebook who's named Julian Mack, anybody can go look him up on Facebook and see the post he made about it. And basically, the hallway where the voting was normally taking place, there was a big sign that said "Closed, do not enter." And it may not have been planned that way, but that's clearly like just a bad timing.
Yeah,
really bad timing. And,
so is anybody suing?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is anybody suing?
I called the ACLU in Ohio, but the only options they have are if you're a lawyer or a reporter, and I'm neither of those things on their like automated menu, so I wasn't really sure where to go with that.
Well, I would do it. If you're a lawyer, I would just hit that button. Just say, okay. When you talk to them, I'm not a lawyer, but I think you should know about this. But I think whoever got disenfranchised, your friend or whoever, they should go and talk to the ACLU, because you can't go back, and I think you're not going to be able to overturn that election. But there should
I don't think so.
Some recognition of it. But I appreciate the call. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
All right, let me take one more quick phone call, and then we'll get out of here. Calling from a 478 area code. Who's this? Where you calling from?
Good afternoon, Sam. This is Jeff in Georgia.
Jeff in Georgia, thank you for holding on the phone for so long. I am sorry. Other folks, go ahead.
I appreciate you taking my call, Sam. I just want to bring up somebody who had been on the show today, Vice President Joe Biden, because, Sam, I really wish I was as successful and middle class as Ronald Reagan, So I've just been sitting here. I've been enjoying a lot of mayonnaise, American cheese sandwiches, been balancing my checkbook for about 9 hours straight now. Been enjoying a lot of Everybody Loves Raymond episodes. Been putting down a lot of work down at the boat dealership, and it's really weird. I don't feel any more rich or empowered than I did. I've yelled at the neighbor kids several times now for no reason at all, and it really it hadn't improved my politics. I don't have health care. I was just wondering if you had any advice for me in terms of what I could do better in order to live these middle class values that are supposedly going to solve our current political crisis in this country, or do you know anything about that? And no, I know you yourself are a very successful, accomplished man.
Maybe eat more mayonnaise. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure.
We're Jews.
Take the train?
We don't eat mayonnaise like that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I was thinking about drinking exactly 17 beers, watching the new Transformers movie, and then headed out to glorious American eater Applebee's. I don't know if is that something that could help me, or
I would give it a try. I understand Applebee's on a Wednesday night probably has some specials. So
I find cross-dressing as a DMV work to be very relaxing.
Just keep living out those middle class values, and someday you will magically have money. That's how it works.
I mean, I'm hoping, because Jamie, I can't continue to drink ranch dressing as a beverage forever. It's eventually going to catch up to me, and so before that happens, getting Medicare for all pass would be a big help.
Well,
y'all have a good now, Majority Report. I love you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks, Jeff from Georgia.
Always
all
a
right,
pleasure.
folks. I am sorry. That is all the time we have for today, but we will be back tomorrow. Same time and channel. Tomorrow, Eric Levitz will be joining us. Talk about Bernie and Warren. Piece he has in the New York Magazine. All right, see you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bulb, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the